let's just move directly into some silence. Home. Home. Wonderful to see you. Welcome to Satsang. So often, in the beginning of satsang, and the end of satsang, and our moments of silence, and in meditation, when we allow the mind to fall away, if there's thought, it's very subtle. And so often something playful and loving comes through. And just now it was, who will be the proof of my existence? Who will be the proof of God? To the best of my understanding, I would say it asked me to ask you. Who dares? Who dares, even with just a little taste, to now know that to be true? A little glimpse, and now to be completely aligned to that. Who would dare? In the Vedanta tradition, there's what's known as the 3 pillars of Vedanta. There's Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. I have my own translation, so you can Google the real one. Shravana means learning, receiving scripture. To me, it means drinking thirstily. Drinking thirstily means coming into contact with the presence, into conscious contact with the presence. I think that's a good distinction, don't you? Conscious contact, meaning there's always contact. Conscious contact with God. I like that. The coming into a recognition of that, we drink thirstily. You know? Not like a wine tasting where you look at it, you taste it, swirl it around and spit it back out. Not like this at all. And then Manana, the best of my recollection, means something like contemplation, real sort of developing discernment around what we receive from teaching and scripture, teacher, to make it our own, to review it and from the standpoint of our own life experience. Not with cynicism, never with cynicism, never with a predisposition to some conclusion, no thesis, a pure scientific approach, where you don't allow the data to be tainted by bias. A real consideration. For me, this manana is digestion. It's having drunk, now allowing the teaching to make its way to every cell of your being. Just like the water you drank this morning is quickly hydrating every cell of your body, the water becomes you. In this same way, this drinking and digesting, the teaching becomes you, you actually become the teaching. This truly is what's meant by yoga. It's experiential. For a time, it can be something learned, but ultimately, it's not learned. It's a transmission, and it's a sense of becoming, a sense of becoming what we have always been, we could say. But there is that experience of movement, of becoming. And maybe this is a nice way to phrase manana, which is a becoming. It's said even that guru is non-different than teaching, the teaching. And that not only the guru's words, whether the guru is talking about scripture or simply leading inquiry or whatever it is, but also in their behavior, the things they do, how it's interpreted by each one of the ones around this one. All of these things, the perfection of teaching through their own life. So this is drinking thirstily, Shravana, Manana, a becoming, a union, a union, a yoke, a yog. And then Nididhyasana, which is having become that, to enact it in your life with what you say and what you do, with how you say and how you do, to step into the seemingly audacious courage to now embody that, to represent it. Hmm? Who will be proof of my existence? He asks. This is Nididhyasana. I like to think of it as acting as if. You have the revelation of the truth of your own existence, of existence itself. And now you choose the daring path of being true to that, the way of making that truth honest for you. And this is a scary business, especially at first. One of my favorite little antidotes is a Western seeker approaches Nisargadatta Maharaj. Something like this, he says something like this, which is, how did you, an uneducated tobacconist, Nisargadatta sold cigarettes, biddies. He'd roll the tobacco and sell them individually, and this is how he supported his family. So he's a very simple man in a worldly way. So how did you, uneducated and impoverished, how did you come to realize the self? And his response was something like this. My guru told me what I am, and I believed him, and I acted as if. You see? In that simple phrase, if I have it right, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. My guru told me, I believed him, I acted as if. Yeah. Many of you may know that this transmission, this real Shravana for the student who is keen and hungry, can be expressed from one speaking from the place of knowing or knowingness. It says simply, Tattvam Asi. It's called a Mahavakya, a great truth. Aham Brahmasmi. That thou art, that Brahman I am. Perhaps we could say the Christian Mahavakya is, I am that I am. Who would dare to drink that, believe it, and then act as if? You see, in the acting as if, there's no room for arrogance. There's no room for delusion. Do you see? One would think if you run around acting as if, you'd be a total fool and make a mess of things. But you see, you have to be keen of mind to understand what acting as if means. And if it's true that you are the embodiment of that, then you need nothing. You would pursue nothing. You would run from nothing and hide from nothing. You'd have no interest in talking about yourself or complaining about another, because you would be what is, as what is. And so everything that was spoken and everything that was enacted would be an expression from this place. It couldn't have a vanity, you see. It couldn't be venal, you see. So, who will be the proof of my existence? He asks. Eeny, meeny, miny. There's a lot of, oh, I can't see it. Can you see the comment? Oh, I wonder, is that better now? I still had the music on. Okay, thank you, yeah.
Can I share something?
Please, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I guess I was just reflecting on, there's ways of describing or conceiving of the journey as it unfolds, like the expansion and contraction, but I was thinking about this whole way of thinking about it as remembering and forgetting, like forgetting, remember, forget. I was just reflecting on my past week and just thinking how, like, last weekend I was very, call it expanded, or feeling very blissful, joyful, present, connected, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then by Tuesday and Wednesday, I was like in deep terror and absolute despair. And then today, I'm like back in, you know, today is Friday. I'm back in like joy and presence and connection. And I just was thinking about how insane that is. It's like actually kind of insane when I think about, because on Wednesday, for example, it was so deep that the thoughts of like, oh my gosh, what have I done wrong? Coming back again. I'm going to be able to find my way back. It's like almost as if like today, Wednesday doesn't exist, and Wednesday, Sunday didn't exist. It's like a total forgetting in both situations. Both when connected, there's a forgetting of what it's like to be not connected, but when not connected, there's a total forgetting of what it's like to be connected, and an assumption that it will always be like this forever. It's like there's an eternity aspect to each state. And even in that state, when I search in my memory for there is no memory really of what it was like. Like now, there is no memory of what it was like on Wednesday, really. And on Wednesday, there was no memory of what it was like on Sunday. It's really just sort of like, remember, forget, awake, asleep, remember, forget. I guess I was just thinking about how literally in chronological time, it's just a week. Not even a week, it's Sunday to Friday that's passed. And how many, if you want to call it frequency vibration, have passed through this being in 5 days, through no action of my own, just as a part of the process. And how kind of insane it feels to think back on, on that.
Yes, wow. Insane. Who can see insanity? Only sanity can see insanity. When insanity views sanity, it calls it insane. Anyway, okay. This is just part of it, isn't it? I mean, raise your hand if you haven't experienced the yo-yo. funny, you know, it's like this from there's a release, you know, like a coil is sprung. I think you and I, Andrew, were talking about this the other day. Like a coil is sprung, and it's going to go violently up and down. Like, you know, like this. And then it just, you know, moves into like this. And here's how it feels. From the bliss, the suffering seems insane and so distant. And how did that ever seem real? Surely I was crazy. And from the trauma, the bliss seems insane. I must have been delusional. What a fool. For me, myself, when I was experiencing this, I called it the whiplash. In order to speak of it, there is a remembering, a reference point of this, then that. And now at last you can pay attention to what's really happening, which is, it's fluid. The you changes like the weather. A cloud rolls in, a storm rolls in, a bright and sunny day. And it's funny, isn't it? Even though our entire life experience is this contrast, we still somehow think that when it's sunny, it's, oh, thank God, I'm done with cloudiness, right? When the bliss comes, thank God, I'm done with suffering. And it can be like a premature celebration. And then we're so offended when it comes back. What did I do wrong? I must have done something wrong. I've forsaken it. I've erred somehow or sinned in some way, right? I didn't handle it so preciously. Isn't it? Yeah. There's something to handling it, holding it lightly, with great reverence. It's something really precious. You know? Like one of my favorites is, you hold it like water. You can't grip it too tightly, because, and you can't forget. And so back and forth we go. And sometimes, you know, the forgetting is more powerful. And we don't even realize we've slipped back into it. And we speak from there. The whole reality is different than it was just yesterday. The entire thing, me in it also, different. And we don't even know. Yeah. It's fascinating, actually, how this works. And you'll see this, like I now see it, which is from a place of a relatively more consistent vibration or awareness. People are actually shifting from one moment to the next and not even remembering what they said 3 sentences ago, which is in complete contrast, in complete contradiction, and they don't see. You know? It's so fluid. This also is the good news, you know. that it's so fluid. I found this is a helpful way to think about it. This, when you become aware of the shifting. This is something that clarifies when I found, when I lived in spiritual communities in ashram. I imagined it as if a wind blows through an ashram. Every community has a shared collective consciousness. And wherever you go physically, wherever you travel mentally and emotionally, you become linked in with the vibration of those surroundings. Physically, mentally, emotionally, traveling. And then you become part of the soup of a collective, a shared consciousness with a shared memory, shared everything. And when a wind comes through, it animates each one, each individual in the collective in a way that is consistent with their particular, let's just say, sanskaras, their ways of interpreting this wind. Do you know, like in the US anyway, there are these, at car dealerships, they have these enormous like sock puppets. I don't know what else to call them. And they blow air up them and they wave around and they have eyes and little arms and the rest of it. And it's to capture people's attention so they come in and buy a car. But each one of these would be animated according to its shape, that the wind fills it out to show what its shape is. Same wind. So a wind comes through a collective consciousness, and one is happy, one is sad, one is angry. And you become sensitive enough where we can see, there's a wind coming in, and you watch and you see how each one is animated by it. And how you yourself, most importantly, are animated by it. In fact, watching very closely with a generosity and a compassion and understanding and acceptance of others, we can then be much more reflective and find out, I see they're being animated. How is it that I'm animated in this? You see? This is what it's like to be in Sangha. It's happening right now in this moment with all of the people tuned in right now. There's a collective. Kiran reminded us the other day, when two or more are gathered in my name. This is gathered in relative stillness, presence. And from relative stillness, movement becomes clarified. So you will see the movement of others, and you'll see the movement of what you call you. So this is the conscious awareness that is not actually total forgetting. It's a remembering and seeing the contrast. And if you one day are miserable and the next day ecstatic, who knows? One of you is miserable, one of you is ecstatic. That's one and two. Who's the third? It's the one who knows. Are there three of you? At least. Who's the one that's aware? The one that's aware, there could be 1,000, 10,000. So how to allow the whiplash to settle. So I'll do a brief version. It's one of my favorites about the predicament and the solution. In a pool of water, still pool, just a few clouds in the sky, the water perfectly reflects the sky. In fact, in reverie, you could confuse up from down. Yes? You've seen it before with your own eyes. A very still pool and a tree growing on the bank. And there's one tree that grows up towards the sky, and there's another tree that grows down towards the sky. Yes? Which one is the reflection? Well, so in any case, you just happen to make a little right on the surface of the water, and it creates this pattern of circles that emanate from the center. In yoga, we call this bindu or om. And these ripples go out, and they reach the edge of the pool, and they come back. And now they're dancing with each other. And it's so beautiful, isn't it? Now the sky is dancing, and the clouds are dancing. This is called lila. Huh? Yes? So now it's time to play and dance. And so you start playing it like a director with an orchestra and making these patterns, and it's so beautiful, and it comes to life almost, yeah? The way that the waves and the ripples are interacting with each other, and then you learn how to put a ripple on top of a ripple. And then you decide, okay, I would like to start fresh, and so you wipe it out like that to clear the slate. So many big waves now. The first big wave bounces off of the edge of the pool and comes at you, and you say no, and you push it away. This is called aversion. One wave is so tantalizing, so mesmerizing. You can't wait for it to reach you, and so you lunge for it. This is called attraction. The pool doesn't know the difference. Huh? Both waves. And now, you've been battling waves for so long, you don't even remember a time where there was stillness. All of this started as a play, something beautiful. And now this Leela is a Maya. This is samsara. And also identified as a wave among waves. Somebody please explain that to me if you ever figure that out, how that happens. So what to do? Now we have some metaphorical understanding of the predicament and what not to do, which is to continue to make waves. What is the solution? You see, because it's like this for all of us in this period of whiplash. I don't want to be suffering. Aversion, massive wave. I want more bliss. Attraction, massive wave. Everybody knows the finger puzzle. So, how to bring stillness to the pool, to the surface of the pool. you must stop splashing. Begin by moving much more gently and easily. More space between movement, slower movement. Eventually, when you become still, the pool will become like glass again and be a perfect reflection. As above, so below. This pool is your mind. In the depths, your heart, let's say. I've never said it this way before. So when the mind is clear of attractions and aversions, meaning preferences and opinions and beliefs, and saying this and that, promoting this, defending that, doing. And this mind is swirling. And so stillness is really, it's the only solution, isn't it? So moving into this stillness and becoming consciously aware of our own attractions and aversions, our own desires and fears, and gently detaching, allowing waves to be without retaliating, without trying to speed waves up. You see? And then the mind becomes clear. And the waves settle. Even just minute improvements have such profound impact on our experience of being. We often talk about shame, and how perilous it is. Shame is a very big wave. What's also fascinating about this is that when the mind is like this, we can't hear, can't actually do Shravana that I was mentioning before. The words of truth will escape us. We can't, there's a dullness. We just can't seem to pierce through. So this is the stillness that brings us, the relative stillness that brings us into the conscious contact to the presence of God, consciously, experientially, not theoretical, not even poetic. The only one who can know this is the one who knows this, experientially. Who will be that proof? There is some other thing, and I believe it's somewhere in the Vedantic teaching. It is that there can be an intercession by God who, in this metaphor, throws a blanket over the ocean of samsara, and that blanket has a calming effect. On the ocean, in the pool, your mind and your heart. It's one of the things, it's one of the verses in the chant that I opened up with this morning, which was Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And there's so many, this one included. If you if you can learn to sing from the chamber of your heart that resonates with your own voice, to sing from there and also to there. From the chamber of heart to the chamber of heart. And this, with a plea, like with a sweet longing, like one might have for a new lover who's traveling, and you just want to be with them so much. This invites the one with the blanket. This plea, please come. Please come. Please come now. And I know, I've heard you say, you've been doing this, many of you. Sometimes at your altar, sometimes wherever it is you are, and just a full, like, please help. Who doesn't know a story of someone who, in a place of total surrender, drops to their knees, accompanied with some sobbing? Who doesn't know of a story where God enters the scene for that one? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Or Hallelujah. Huh? Or in the catacombs of Tibet, Om Mani Padme Om, Mani Padme Om, Mani Padme Om, Mani Padme Om. Or has anybody been to the East and heard the call to prayer? All of these, an expression in a tradition of a deep longing. We can be scientific about this also. Just to try. It's not like we have to go manufacture the sense of suffering in order to create that space for us to call out longingly for help. It's not like, we have to pretend that that's there in order to run the experiment. I think we have that in abundance, don't we? Huh? It's not like it has to be a put on. There's no pretense in it, is there? In fact, maybe, I don't know, but maybe there is the very absence of pretense. I remember years ago, in very sort of dramatic sense of suffering, I still was self-conscious on my very own to take to my knees at my bed in the morning. Nobody there. And yet somehow I was still embarrassed. Isn't it funny? I've known people who, in moments of desperation, retreat to the men's room stall over the toilet to hit their knees and pray. A beautiful thing to do, but it's funny how we feel like we need to really just hide in this. Who will dare to be proof of my existence? He asks. In a way, of course, I want to say this again, it's a noble and ennobling thing to pray from the bathroom, public restroom. Hmm? But who will be completely free of their guile, of their, how do I say? Their mask, their pretense, their personal public relations campaign. I remember one time when I saw that the cause of my suffering was within me, embodied in me. And I realized that to stifle any tear, any sob, was to commit to more suffering. That the crying, that the expression of this was actually, was kind of compacting the suffering so that I would continue to suffer in greater and greater amounts. And it just wanted to be released. And when I saw this, and I saw that denying its ability to express itself, meaning to come up and out appropriately, not harming anyone, that my suppression of this was guaranteeing more suffering tomorrow. And when I saw that, I made a resolution to myself, I was never once going to hold back the tears. Because I saw what it was doing to me, what it had done to me, what it had done to the people who loved me and that I loved. What it had done in every aspect of my life. And I resolved in that moment I would never suppress it again. And I was one day, I was really put to the test. I was in the middle of a supermarket. My cart was half full. And it came. And, you know, back then when it would come with sobbing, tunnel vision, sometimes dry heaving, tears and snot, you know, ugly. I think maybe it does it a disservice to give it a name like panic attack because it's not sufficient. This defies diagnosis. And so there I was in the middle of the supermarket, and I remembered, I committed. I wasn't going to going to refuse to be embarrassed and keep these things in because it's in polite society, one doesn't fall apart in the middle of the supermarket. I went all in. And I left my cart where it was, and I got the tunnel vision, and I could barely see, and I made my way outside. And there was a tall curb that I could sit on, and I just, right there. And I was always also worried that, somebody would come in and some codependent would come up and try and save the day, tilt their head and say, are you okay? But somehow in this honesty, the scene around us can be curated, not by us. And in this particular example, a woman followed me out, it seems, and she came up to me and very calmly, she looked at me and she said, are you okay? And I said, yes. And she says, are you a veteran? And not wanting to get in a conversation, I said, yes. And it's true, isn't it? You also are a veteran. Huh? A veteran of samsara. Huh? And she blessed me without a word and walked away. It ran its course. I got up. I went back into the store, finished my shopping. Not embarrassed. Truly not, actually. Felt proud, actually, in a way, in a subtle way, that finally I had the courage finally I had the courage to, how do I say, allow for my own sense of self. Yeah. Yeah. No. The truth is that how is it possible that we become so distant from our own selves? Okay, let me just take a pause. Imagine this, I see it now that from where I'm looking, that man had so much courage. A really rare kind of courage. A bit strange. I mean, from where I'm looking now, I love him like I love my son. Yeah? Proud of him without taking anything from him. There's no condescension in it, not even a little. Do you see what I mean? Proud, but not condescending, Lisa. Great respect. And of course, you would say, one would think, well, that's me. Maybe. Is it too much? It's too much. Yeah. Maybe it's also helpful in a way, to share where I came from, what I came through. In a way to say that this is really attainable. I don't know how to see more people on the screen. I saw it the other day, and now I can't figure out where it is. I want to see everybody. Maybe I'll just have to figure it out at a different time. So, who has something? 20 minutes. Click view. And gallery view. I have gallery view. I think there's a way to change it to like
Full screen.
okay.
A reflection, a question, a thing. Oh, excuse me.
No, you go.
Yesterday, I was speaking with someone who had a friend who lived in Canada, and she kept in contact with this friend in a way that we do. Once a year, she emailed on his birthday, and she knew him from years ago and held him dear, even though it was a little bit more of a distant communication. So she emailed on his birthday, and he didn't answer. And then she called, and his phone was disconnected. And then a couple of weeks passed, and she contacted a mutual friend, and he had died in November. And she was so sad. And she kept saying, but all this time I thought he was alive. All this time. And that was a huge part of her grief, what she said to me over and over. All this time, I thought he was alive. How did I not know? And for some reason, some of the things you're saying this morning, I think, all this time I thought he was alive. Or I thought whatever I thought. How did I not know? And then when I was speaking with her, I didn't know what to say, and I just listened mostly. But I said, you know, he was alive for you. All these months, he was alive. It wasn't a lie. It wasn't wrong. You love him. And he's still alive. But I keep hearing her say, I thought he was alive all this time. I don't know my question, but there's a question there. Thank you.
Yes. Don't let this go so easily, this inflection point. And what is the input of your experience? And where is it you're experiencing? There's so much that can be said, and nothing wants to be said. Because I think the whole thing is in the question, in the inquiry. And I don't want to step on it.
May I share also a similar experience, I think?
Please.
May I?
Yes, please.
I had a partner for a long time, and after we separated and we didn't see each other for a little while, she passed. She passed in like under complicated circumstances, like very harsh circumstances. And a lot had gone on before, and it was a lot. And the thing is that I had, I think, the opposite reaction maybe, because at the beginning, my mind, my heart, they were like blank. I didn't react when I heard that she had passed. But a little while afterwards, maybe 10, 12 days afterwards, it sinked in. And then I was truly heartbroken for a while. I don't know how long, but the acknowledgement that she had actually ceased to exist was heartbreaking. So I don't know. Now that I said it, I don't know if it relates properly to the story that to the anecdote that you're telling us, but yeah, I just thought about it and I thought maybe it could be something.
Thank you, Daniel.
Hmm.
I also have something to add if you think this might help.
Please.
I don't think that we love ever truly leave us. I was supposed to be a twin. My twin was miscarried. And I went through a rough time when I was 19. And I got over it. And I felt a rough time building up again when I was 20. But before I could build, I saw the hands of that. I saw a resemblance to a year before, and I was getting worried about it. And one night, I had a dream. In my dream, I was in a tent on a beach, looking out at the ocean. I was the only person on the beach. When this 4-year-old kid came from the water, walking towards me, and I started to panic because there's nobody else on the beach but me. And I rushed to him. Who are you? Where are you? Where are your parents? Basically, over vomit, but not giving him a chance to answer. And he came with me back to the tent, sat down, and he just looked at me. So all of this questioning, like, you should know the answer to this. And eventually, it clicks with me. This 4-year-old looks exactly like I did at that age. And I just asked him in that moment, are you my twin? And he gave me a look of purest compassion. And he said, he didn't say anything, sorry, but that look said, everything is going to be okay. So I think quite a guardian angel, but the people we love, even beyond death, they're there with us.
Yes. Thank you. And what a profound experience. Each of you also. We know so little. We know so little. And there are so many dimensions of awareness, even in our own sort of what we're currently aware of. There are so many levels. What can we really say about any of it? Why is it that grief comes before or after? Huh? What is it to share a womb with another soul? And to have awareness of the unseen, the intangible. And it's not just limited to the dream space, is it? Yeah. 5 minutes. And I just have a tremendous amount of respect for the subtlety of all of these sharings, and I'm really still feeling so much that I don't want to talk on top of it. I think that the reflections are sufficient on their own, and I encourage you to sit with them and wonder.
Can I share a reflection as well?
Please.
So, what's coming up for me, it's actually quite topical, because Johnny, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think his birthday was yesterday, right? Yeah. So Johnny and I, we went to college together, and one of our best friends, a really beautiful soul named Gashao, he passed away. I think it's 8 years now, 7 years. Maybe 2025, 2017. He passed away. Yeah, so we were in our early 20s. I think I was 24 at the time he passed. And I remember I was living in Trinidad. He was living in San Francisco. We used to live together in San Francisco. He definitely would have, yeah. Inquiring soul. And I just remember this experience of, when he passed, and I found out all of us came together in San Francisco, and it was this really beautiful week of grief and sharing and laughter and joy, and, but I remember coming back to Trinidad, and not a thing in my daily life had changed. It's not like we spoke that often. It was a friendship where we were deeply immersed in each other's presence, and we were there, and we'd catch up once every maybe month or so, or a couple of months, or send a WhatsApp message now and again. So by and large, my daily life was exactly the same as it had been. It was literally just the thought that he no longer existed. I guess, physically, At that time, death was final for me. So it literally, but now I look back on it, and I just remember existing in this bizarre space of nothing has changed in my daily life. Most of the people I know in Trinidad don't even know him, or know him the way I do. Everything is going on the same way it was, yet it's just a thought. It's just a thought that it shifted, or knowledge. So I was just as y'all were sharing your stories, it also just took me back to that, and I was from this new perspective looking back and thinking, wow, yeah, wow. Again, no question, not much to say, just something to add into to the mix.
Yeah. Thank you. What calls to question is, where are we experiencing from? When are we experiencing? Where also are we looking from? Where are we seeing from? Yes. Don't make it impersonal. It's very personal. But know, where are you experiencing? Where are you seeing from? When? It's a lot to swallow. And
Nataraj,
yes.
I also have something that's wanting to come up.
Please, yeah, wonderful.
It's throwing a pebble into the pond. my husband and I had a dog and 2 cats. They're behind me here. And they all passed within 10 months of each other. And I loved them so dearly and deeply. It was the most pure love I've ever experienced. And the grief still now, when it comes, will drop me to my knees and consume me. And it's been about 2 years since the last one passed, and the experience now, even though that love is still so real and that grief is still so real, and also it's like they never existed. And the me that loved them and took care of them also never existed. And I can't find them, and it's not a problem, and it doesn't change or affect the love and the grief at all. But both are true at the same time. And that just wanted to come out.
Before you mute, may I ask you, in this way of perceiving, tell me about, we're talking about grief, tell me about gratitude.
To have felt that love,
Yeah.
to have had them in my life, to have had that experience. Oh, just the most beautiful joy of my life. Oh my God, I'm so glad for them. I'm so grateful for that experience. I love them so much. And I love the me that loved them so much. She is the best version of me, the one who loves them.
And can't find yourself that loved them in that way, in that time, yes? Can't find them, can't find you. You see how the fruit of detachment is so intimate. So intimate. Thank you. Because even, I wanted to make a point of it, but even hearing you talk about the grief, I heard the gratitude, and I wanted it to be said just like you did. Thank you so much. Nisargadatta says, wisdom is knowing I'm nothing. Love is knowing I'm everything. Between the two, my life moves. How can it be? It's come now a third time, so I'm going to say, Ramana Maharshi, when he was preparing to take his Mahasamadhi, means to leave his body consciously. There are a couple of stories from these moments that I think I remember hearing. The first is that his disciples had been with him for all of this time in Tiruvannamalai, on Mount Arunachala. And one disciple said, "My Lord, what are we going to do without you?" You know, can you feel that? Huh? What am I going to do without you? And his response, I take so much courage in this, because he laughed as if he heard the most absurd thing ever. And he says, "Where could I possibly go?" Huh? Where could I possibly go? It doesn't belittle the grief. I don't know how to explain this, but it doesn't belittle the grief. Somehow the grief and the gratitude become the same thing. And different, simultaneously the same and different. And nothing compares. Nothing compares to this. Everyone's getting a little taste in their own way of this. The other thing that I think is so marvelous about, apparently one of the last things he said, or the very last thing that Ramana Maharshi said before he left the body, was inquiring about the peacock, whose name I forget, to make sure that it was fed. Can you imagine the last words of an embodied Bhagavan? Huh? Concern for another, a peacock. This is so sweet. I am overjoyed. Best satsang ever. Mm. Yes. Yes. And we let it out, and then we let it in. Yeah. Empty, 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 empty. Full, 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 full.
I have to share just because it's so ironic.
Ah, perfect, perfect.
I after you shared, Nataraj, your story of the supermarket and just letting it out in public, I have to share that I've been turning off my video to cry.
You don't think I know.
I mean, there's some difference because I didn't want to distract
okay.
from the satsang, but there was also a part of me that, felt embarrassed.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I think it's normal. We made a rule, didn't we, in Virginia at our little Bhajan Kutir. No one was allowed to wipe their tears from their face because there's something sincere in this, and please hear. These tears are a puja. Your pain expressed in this way, in sincerity and humility, is an offering. This is puja. These tears are your own abhishek. And the tears that run down your cheeks also run down inside of you, right into your own heart. Yeah. In this sorrow, we say, Lord, I want that you have all of me. This is devotion. This is wisdom. This is Jnana, and this is Bhakti. Hmm? This is Christ through the wound. Hmm? It is so worth it. It is so worth every courage you can muster. That's right. And the tears and the sobs make way for laughter, belly-aching laughter. Huh? And then you know I'm a crazy person. And then you know I'm a fool. Who will dare to be proof of my existence, he asks. Hmm. Be the rare one that doesn't cling to, that doesn't hold on to their own suffering. Hmm. Do you know how eager what we call God is to gobble it all up for us? If only we offer it up. You see, this is my actual experience, I could say. In actual puja at Satchidananda Ashram, Yogaville, where I was living, in Chidambaram, the Samadhi shrine for Swami Satchidananda. And while puja is going on with offering of abhishek and flowers and fruits, I offered my very self. You take it. Every morning, 8 a.m. You know, it wasn't necessary to be at an ashram. It wasn't necessary to be at this Samadhi shrine. It wasn't necessary that it was this particular Swami. None of this was necessary, but it was very helpful for me that I thought I was making an offering. All of these things were perfect. Lord, I want that you have all of me. Hmm. I am done hiding. Hmm. I am finished pretending. Yeah? Yeah. It's not such a sacrifice, actually, in the end, is it? Because none of it ever worked. It was a flawed strategy from the get-go. Hmm? Who can make this transaction, this exchange? Hmm? You say to God, I'll give you mine. You give me yours. I could say maybe from this way, this thing, this one that we call God, that is to me a reality, palpable and visceral, just as you are to me in that same way. This one, this God, wants so desperately to give itself, to give himself, to give herself to us. But everybody's running around, not wanting to take it. Like a water boy, but nobody's thirsty. Satsang keeps running late these days, my goodness. People have to go to work. Well, all of this sounds very sort of, I don't know how it sounds. But I want to also say, this is a science. This isn't theology. It is not theology. It isn't religion, not in the way we understand religion to be. You hear me say often, this isn't poetry. This is as simple and practical as it gets. It just happens to be completely different. Different direction, different approach, different posture. If your way is still working, continue. Pay very close attention. This is pragmatic. This is, as I say, this is scientific. This isn't even philosophical. It's not. In fact, the mind that doesn't want to hear it, we'll call it all of these things. Yes? But each one you have to see for yourself. I remember hearing something really audacious, that if it was true, it would change my entire perception of reality. And my first inclination was to scoff at it in cynicism. It was actually my first exposure to this prayer, Ho'oponopono. And I won't go into it now, but what I heard was that if it's true, what this Dr. Hugh Len says about Ho'oponopono is, if it's true, then it changes everything. It changes everything I think I understand. And my first inclination was a kind of an intellectual superiority that was cynical, clever, and would discard it without investigation. But I thought in that moment, if it's true, and I don't explore the potential of it, and if I don't explore the potential of it, I'm an idiot. Guilty of contempt prior to investigation. You investigate. Know for yourself. Hmm? Overjoyed. Thank you, thank you. Let's do a brief silent meditation. We can sort of share this love and gratitude with each other in the field. Huh? In the field. Together in the field. Huh? And because we're in Mayapur, and it's the appearance day of Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Home. Also, Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Grant us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the glory and the power. Amen. Om.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. I thought maybe today is Gaur Purnima, the appearance day of Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of Mayapur, actually, was where he's from, and his Panchatattva. And some years ago, I learned this invocation from Gauravani, and I was just with Gaura in Rishikesh. And so today is Gaur Purnima, and also holy. And so today I've been for a bath in the Jalangi River in Mayapur, and we also celebrated Holi. Maybe there'll be some pictures or something we can share somehow. But let's start with this invocation. It's funny too, because earlier today I was thinking about the opening slokas that we started everything we did at Yogaville, and I think I'd like to incorporate that back into satsang too. But today seems appropriate to do a different invocation. Advaita This is a Mangalam chant that invites auspiciousness into our satsang and our lives. It's actually a very, very powerful chant. I used to do this daily. Well, be careful. Now look at me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,